So they've made a deal with the ducks that they will never shoot a gun again. In fact, Mr. Greg promised he would break them into bits. Let's see if that's actually what happens, shall we? So they flew down. Then all at once, everything went black before their eyes, and they couldn't see. At the same time, a funny feeling came over them, and they heard a great wind blowing in their ears. Then the black that was before their eyes turned to blue, to green, to red, and then to gold. And suddenly, there they were, standing in the lovely bright sunshine in their own garden, near their own house, and everything was back to normal once again. "Our wings have gone," said Mr. Greg, "and our arms have come back." "And we're not tiny any more," laughed Mrs. Greg. "Oh, I'm so glad." Philip and William began dancing about with joy. Then, high above their heads, they heard the call of a wild duck. They all looked up and saw the 4 birds, lovely against the blue sky, lying very close together, heading back to the lake in the woods. It must have been about half an hour later that I myself had walked into the Greg's garden. I'd come to see how things were going, and I must admit I was expecting the worst. At the gate I stopped and stared. It was a queer sight. In one corner, Mr. Greg was smashing up all 3 guns into tiny pieces with a huge hammer. In another corner, Mrs. Greg was placing beautiful flowers upon 16 tiny mounds of soil, which I learned later were the graves of the ducks that had been shot the day before. In the middle of the yard stood Philip and William, with a sack of their father's best barley beside them. They were surrounded by ducks, doves, pigeons, sparrows, robins, larks, and many other kinds that I did not know, and the birds were eating the barley that the boys were scattering by the handful. It's quite a nice picture, actually. Can we see that? Yeah, it's cool. "Good morning, Mr. Greg," I said. Mr. Greg lowered his hammer and looked at me. "My name is not Greg any more," he said. "In honour of my feathered friends, I have changed from Greg to Egg." "And I am Mrs. Egg," said Mrs. Greg. "What happened?" I asked. They seemed to have gone completely dotty, all 4 of them. Philip and William then began to tell me the whole story. When they had finished, William said, "Look, there's the nest. Can you see it? Right up there in the top of the tree. That's where we slept last night." "I built it all myself," Mr. Egg said proudly. "Every stick of it." "If you don't believe us," Mrs. Egg said, "just go into the house and take a look at the bathroom. It's a mess." "They filled the tub right up to the brim," Philip said. "They must have been swimming around in it all night. Feathers everywhere." "Ducks like water," Mr. Egg said. "I'm glad they had a good time." Just then, from somewhere over by the lake, there came a loud bang. "Someone's shooting!" I cried. "That'll be Jim Cooper," Mr. Egg said. "Him and his 3 boys. They're shooting mad, the Coopers are. The whole family." Suddenly, I started to see red. I got very hot all over, and the tip of my finger began to tingle most terribly. I could feel the power building up and up inside of me. I turned and started running towards the lake as fast as I could. "Hey!" shouted Mr. Egg. What's up? Where are you going?" "To find the Coopers," I called back. "But why?" "You wait and see," I said. "They'll be nesting in the trees to night, every one of them."